Hey guys, um, bit slack tonight. Sorry. Bit sore and bit sorry. Been at work, but I've had a few days in bed. Um, hey Poppy, 624 Dudley, g'day. Paul, g'day. David Sykes, hello. Mark Osborne, g'day. Kevin, g'day. Didn't pull up so well after the other weekend. End up with a chest infection. I think everyone I know up here's got the sore throat or cold or something. And that didn't do me any favours, really. And on top of that, I probably had a few drinkies when I was down in New South Wales, which I shouldn't have, in hindsight. And I've actually got a uric acid build-up on one ankle. That's a recurring thing when that happens. I forget why until I do it again. But yeah, that's pretty painful. It's killing me. James P. Adam, g'day. So, as a consequence, hey Peter. Um, as a consequence, I'm not particularly feeling like doing much. I haven't done anything at all this weekend, which is a bit slack. I did start live stream by mistake and then they rescheduled it. So there is one sitting there that if you're all sitting over there waiting for it to start again, don't, because I should have deleted it, but I ran out of time. I'll delete it later. Anyway, here we are. I did spend half hour, an hour or something on this scroll saw, messing around. I'm reluctant to say I actually achieved anything, but maybe I did. The old motor that's on it's got some wiring issues. It's a similar motor to this. This is a GMF. This chair's squeaky. I'm going to try and stand up for a bit longer. It's a GMF that I had sitting around. This actually come with my lathe, and I peeled all the awful green paint off it. And put it back in the cupboard for quite some time. I knew it was there somewhere. I just had to find which corner I put it in. Anyway, pulled apart. It's got no paint on it at all, so it might end up with a coat of machinery grey or something sensible. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. It might get a coat of paint before it goes on the machine. I've got a e-stop switch and a ordinary on and off switch coming for it, which will be pretty nice. I think all saws should have an e-stop switch. And I didn't manage to go and get the right size belt. This is a 32, I think, this one. Yeah, M32. Grommet for the wiring box. Yeah, I have to find one of them too. Hasn't got one of them yet. This is a starter switch motor. One that's on it's a capacitor motor. It probably was at some stage. It looks like it's kind of ended up that way by default. So Going to pull the one that's off it and put this on it, and that should make a good job out of it. But it might get a coat of paint properly first. Don't think I'll paint it yellow. So that's about all I've done this weekend, to be honest. Like, really. I messed around upstairs and did a little bit of 3D printing. There's new firmware for the Prusa Mini that they've been promising since they released it a few years ago. And that gives it wireless capability, which is pretty awesome. It seems to work okay, so I'll flash that on and we'll see how that goes. Don't seem to have problem with beta firmware for it, or any other sort of firmware for it, or don't seem to have a lot of problems with it, to be honest. So there's that. So I messed around with that while I had my feet up. What else? Gee, it's one of those sort of weeks. Bit light on. I cleaned and serviced a music box for work. Did that. 3D printed some bits for a watch that we're rebuilding or transplanting. Word on the steamroller. Oh gosh, that's happening with the steamroller? Not very much this week. I had every intention of pulling all the boards off that canopy and getting them sanded down this weekend. That was the original plan. That's what was going to happen. However, it was sort of too painful to even stand up, and I was coughing my insides out for most of the weekend, so that didn't happen. Rather than have bits sitting there everywhere for the next week, I might leave that. At this point, the steamroller's coming down to Coomera. It'll sit in the car park for a little while. About the 20-something, Wednesday, I reckon we can do it on Gold Coast public holiday, which is, if I can find someone who doesn't mind a bit of cash on a public holiday, or it's probably a Brisbane truck, the one that I got a quote for, and they're not affected. We'll try and get the roller here for that, which is about the second last or the last. Don't think it's this. It's about 10 days' time anyway. So the exciting thing is that we're probably going to have a steamroller here in 10 days, 14 days, something like that. Anyway, I don't know. We'll go and do a live stream off that, and then I'll do a decent video and a bit of overlook and spend some time just what it all does and what all the bits do, etc., 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 and what needs to perhaps be done and the way forward on little projects and things like that when that happens. But I'd really, really like to get this canopy at least primed and a coat of red on it before that happens. So that's what's happening. If anyone wants to come and give us a hand between now and then at any point, more than welcome. But I'll get there. I don't want it here in the yard for too long. I want to sort out a canopy, curtains, and the registration. By curtains, I mean weather curtains that hang down the sides that keep some of the warmth in and some of the wet out. It's parked at events and outside and so forth. They're just canvas curtains that hook up around the sides. I was trying to chase up some hooks, and when you need 40 or 50 hooks, the difference between paying $8 each for them and paying $2 each for them is pretty crazy, actually. You don't want to do the maths on that. Hey, Stuart. But found these hooks. Hang on, I'll grab them. So found some of these which were the right price, and they're stainless steel, so they won't go rusty. They've got 2 screws in them, so they won't swivel around out of the way every time you want to use them. And they're pretty strong, so they'll hold the weight. They hold the weight, and they don't look too bad, and you're not going to bang your head on them when you stand up underneath it when it's in the side. They're like that way up. So that's the thinking behind that. Mike from Cornwall, good day. So I had what they had in stock, and I ordered the rest, worked out how many I needed, and got a box of stainless screws. So they should be pretty nice on there, I reckon. That should fix that problem pretty easy. You get them all mounted up and take them off before we give them a coat of paint, and put them all on nice afterwards. So that's where we're at with that. There's still 1,000 things to do. I'd love a week off. I really, really love a week off to do something. But the way things are at work at the moment is that we've got to close the store if anyone wants a week off. And that's probably not going to happen. Hey Dan. So that's where we are. Dan, just for the record, while we're here, I meant to send you a picture of that anyway. But that's the hooks I found, stainless steel, 316 stainless steel. I think they're 316. Yeah, they got 316 stamped in them. Yeah, the stainless steel hooks for the curtains, they look pretty good. And they were the right price. The brass ones were about, the cheapest I get brass ones that looked any good at all were about $7 each. And these were $2. I got the quantity of them I got for just over $2 each. So yeah, box of stainless steel screws as well. So that's the job done. So there we go. That's the roller update. If anyone wants to come and spend a weekend painting and sanding, awesome. But I'll get there. I will get there. I've got this clock that needs some pivots and bushes. This clock here, which hasn't moved since last week. Nothing has much. I would love to get this on the machine and the machine sorted at some point, but still waiting for a switch for it. One of them come, the other one never. So don't think I'm going to get this hooked up. I've got to go across town to get a belt too. So that's probably not going to happen this next weekend. What I would like to see is that this canopy gets pressure cleaned, get some of the tallowy, greasy, oily off it, and boards come off and get laid out on trestles, and they all get a rub over with a sander, and they get a coat of undercoat this weekend. That would be very awesome. I'd be pretty happy with that as an outcome. And I'd like to probably mark out and hang these hooks on it as well, if we could do that. Dreams team, g'day. Hey Chirpy. So there we go. A couple of little auction scores last week. Coming home on the bus with nothing better to do than sit on the live auction. and there were a few bargains. Sometimes there are. I do tend to collect Hornby O-gauge. I guess you all know that. I've got a bit of a collection. It's on a shelf upstairs, and I really should put some sort of a railway in up there, but hasn't happened, and it probably won't for a bit. I don't know. Issue being the wall that I'd like to run the railway along is actually solid concrete. It's very difficult to attach anything to. So not got thoughts on that at all. But I'd really like a railway upstairs somewhere at some point. And probably I'll just have a board that goes on this table that goes up against the wall, something like that, or even folds down against the wall or something. I don't know yet. Hasn't happened, but we're still sort of gathering up stuff when it's at the right price. I really don't pay antique shop prices. No, I don't even like to pay marketplace prices, which are too dear. People get at you a bit with that stuff, and it's not really worth the price people think it is. I'm a bit whingy and cheap about it. But this was a sort of a nice thing that was in the auction at a half reasonable price. Some of it's been repainted. But the rest of it's pretty tidy. Most of the litho's sort of nearly on there. And I'm not convinced that probably this is the original platform ends, but yeah, the trouble is with the 3.5-inch gauge loco system, Adam, is that there's all the clicky little clubs you've got to spend time with and help with and so forth to get any progress on things. Getting boiler certificates and things is a bit complicated with that compared to full-size steam. Anyway, it's nice Hornby country station. Fairly nice. Not sure what age this is. I'm going with... It's probably one of the later tin plate stations, so it's probably 60s. Certainly this side of World War II. The fence has been repainted, but it's tidy and it's not too bad. On the front, anyway. So it won't hurt to be in the box. There's a few other bits here. That look like they probably belong on it, but haven't really had much of a look. There appears to be a signboard that's missing, and whether there's actually a signboard missing or whether someone's taken them off, put their own on and never put those back on, or whether they're still in the box, I don't know yet. But there are some nice Hornby tin plate jobbies. This is of a different age, and it's had some screws, and it's had a bit of a restoration job. Someone's painted this, I would say. And someone's epoxied the style in the middle here, and I'm guessing that they've screwed this back down. It doesn't appear to be any lights or anything in it, but a lot of the litho is missing on the back. You can see the shiny there, but apart from that, it's reasonably tidy. So for the price I paid for it, which was, like I say, I'm a bit tight with this stuff. Compared to the price that something like this would bring on eBay, it's pretty tidy, and I'm really pleased with it. It needs a Coke machine, a payphone, yeah. But yeah, it's fairly tidy. Anyway, there was a few other things in the box as well, but pretty pleased to get that. It's really nice. It's well, it's not really nice, but it's certainly a user. So that's where we're at. Don't know what else. Don't know much, really. I'd open for options on what would be a smart and good thing to put on the sideboards on the rollo, if we're still on that subject. The canopy sideboards, the sign boards, or the sideboards, or long boards, or whatever you want to call them. Traditionally, rollers tend to all have John Fowler and Company leads in brackets, which was what the Works Photos ones probably had on it. And I would imagine that anything that got exported might have had it, but most rollers and engines and things probably they were left blank, because it's probably just something they did for this, like striping engines. That probably most of them weren't even striped or lined. They were just sort of they were sort of left blank with a bit of colour and some brass, or sort of, if they didn't feel like painting it. And unless they were ordered that way, and the ones that were taken for photos for catalogues and went to shows and things probably were a bit fancier. They might have had a bit of an army of sign painters or coach painters, but I really don't know if they did. And when you look at Fowler's records for 1926 and discover that they were making, I think, 26 rollers in that month, which was March or May or something, of 1926. That's about one a day. It's not a bad effort when you think of all the bits that need to be made in that day to keep that sort of production up. There's tube plate and the back plate and the boiler barrel and rolled and riveted chimney. A set of fire tubes fitted and needed grate, all fitting an ash pan. front rolls machined and back rolls machined, and all the wheels riveted up from spokes, and differential assembly, and winch under assembly, then all the gears, and big crankshaft and a flywheel, which is kind of a fairly big sort of an assembly, and cylinders and pistons, and like motion and all that stuff, and a canopy. A lot of fittings and pipework and stuff as well. So it's pretty good effort for a day. And probably they weren't all finished today. Probably they finished a batch of 3 every few days, something like that. But that was only rollers, and their output was, I don't think rollers were a huge part of Fowler's output in the 20s. And road locomotives and agricultural engines would have been a bigger thing, and even portables. I mean, they made a few portables. They're not as many as other companies, but they did make a few portables. And probably more portables than rollers. And yeah, the 10-ton roller would have probably been one of the smaller ones, it's one of the smaller engines. So it's not a bad effort. And I doubt whether they got too much coach lining or anything fancy like that. So anyway, I'm open for ideas of what to put down the sides on something that's sort of a little bit vanity driven, rather than put John Fowler and company leads, which all other Fowler engines I've ever seen have got, more or less. All in different styles. You can't really match anything. Now I've had a good look. Yeah, I've rattled on a bit. Now, Kevin, now I've had a good look at the roller. I don't know if I have had a good look at the roller, but what needs doing? It's got not much, to be honest. Right? The canopy needs sorting out. The only because it's a bit tired and it's been off for a while and a bit exposed to elements, and it could do with a coat of paint. The piston pump, or the crankshaft pump, isn't, the top non-return valve is bypassing a bit. It's not sealing properly. That's a common Fowler problem, I think. I think for anyone I'll talk to who owns or has driven a Fowler has dealt with that issue. I don't think there's a proper fix. I think you just got to keep messing around with it and hope it comes right at some point for a bit. Gosh, it's got a bit of a boiler leak, which is going to need some caulking. Nothing particularly serious. On the barrel against where the front throat plate fits up to the barrel. Not crazy bad, but it really wants someone to give that some attention. And well, seriously, Dan, I'm seriously thinking that as far as signwriting goes, I think it's going to get Acme Joke and Trick Company in Looney Tunes writing. I think that's probably the answer, but I really don't want to, What else needs doing? Seriously thinking I'm going to do one and stick it up on Facebook and see who bites. And as soon as hand it back and do something else. What else needs doing to it? Look, there's probably 4 or 5 or 6 taps on it that need replacing with decent, nice brass ones rather than chrome crappy stuff. That's neither here or there and doesn't affect the functionality. It just doesn't look the part. And it's probably not a big deal to do it. It does need road registering and housing somewhere close to a couple of events so that it can get to them, because getting quotes to move it around on a big truck is a little bit expensive. And keeping it in the country somewhere where we can road it to events is probably the sensible thing. Got to learn to drive it. That's right. I've got to kind of get a Steam ticket. That's important, which I don't have. Got steps in motion to do that, and it's probably not a crazy serious thing to do, but that's something that's going to have to happen. And if anyone else is local and wants to get theirs too, I mean local to Grafton, that's probably how it's going to work. It probably brings the price down a bit, so open for offers there. Mechanically, there's very little that needs doing. There's a few bolts that probably need replacing, and there's some bolts that need some modification. There's a set of hedgehog style bolts around the front of the smoke box that have got too many threads sticking up past the nuts, and they look a bit ugly. They want chopping off with the grinder. It hasn't got a cover for the chimney, a weather cover. It's probably something that needs doing to it. It could really do with a ladder on the step on the side, because that's near the use to ornament where it is. It's a long way up off the ground. Advertise yourself with odd job work. Yeah, something like that, yeah. It's not really light engineering though, is it? It's I'm thinking about it, You can't really put engineer on it. It's a bit they're upside down, we didn't figure out. The smokebox bolts. No, the smokebox bolts are the right way up. Looking at all of them, they are the right way up. They're just a bit long. That's where we're at with that. I think they probably just want half-inch chopping off the top of them. It's probably an hour with the grinder and fix that. Just looking at all the other ones that I've seen close up. Now you see them in videos, you kind of look at those sort of things. So it could do with honestly, that's about all that ever needs doing to it. It could do with a coat of paint. That's a big job, right? When you start looking at that, right? Two things go hand in hand there. It could really do with vulcanised tyres on the front and the back, like an inch of decent hard rubber front and back rolls, which would be really nice. And guy I know here, Gary, who's just about got his Fowler Road loco back on the road. He's just had his done, and we had to talk about it the other night. And it'd be really nice to do it, but I'm not sure that I'm going to run to it anytime soon. I might save up for that. And the logistics of the job are a bit scary, because the side rolls probably weigh, 1,100 kilos, 1,200 kilos each, I reckon. And the front rolls probably weigh 1.5 tons, a pair of them. So by the time you lift them off, put them on a truck, take them to Toowoomba or whoever wants to do them, and get them back in Australia, that's like, things got to be jacked up somewhere with the wheels off it for 8 to 10 weeks while they're done. It's probably worth doing, but it's a crazy big job. So I'm not really feeling like that's going to happen anytime soon. Boiler treatment, apparently someone I know's got plenty of it. We might just swap him some steam oil for some. So at this point, it's still at Dino's, and he's fairly relaxed about that. I think he'd like the shed space very much. But I would say Gold Coast Show holiday weekend, or week, we might get it down here and start putting the canopy back on. James, you're probably right. But yeah, looked into registration a bit. The thing needs to be road registered, because moving it around to get things done, or from event to event, or even having fun with it out on the road, it really, even parking it on the street, it sort of needs to be road registered. Yeah, go buy yourself a McLaren or two, Dad. There's a thing in Australia called a special interest registration scheme, which is basically for a classic or collectible vehicle, or a vintage vehicle, that's owned by a member of a special interest club. And it varies a bit from state to state, but they're not that they're interchangeable, but if you move into state, the laws still apply. So from that point of view, getting it registered in New South Wales is a more sensible option than Queensland. That's where we're at with that, because there's a bit more leniency to use it with the New South Wales scheme than there is with the Queensland scheme. Quite a lot, actually. You've got 60 days where you can use it and people don't even ask questions, whereas here in Queensland, if you're not going to a event or a published event, or testing it, or finding an excuse to have it out, then probably you shouldn't. So it's probably worth chasing up a New South Wales club to join to get to get registration in New South Wales if it's going to be sort of housed there. I don't think it's particularly expensive in either state, and I don't think it's a particularly difficult thing to do. You don't even really need to get it inspected. You need a weighbridge ticket, and you need to measure it. You need to know what to class it as because you can't officially register a tractor for road use. But you can register mobile equipment. Mobile machinery. And I've learnt quite a lot about that. So at some point I'm going to have to roll up to the registry office with some documents. Got to have some sort of a document from an officer that can say, a club officer that says, hey, look, this is probably half safe, and you've got to have someone have a look at it, get a pink slip in New South Wales. In Queensland, I don't think you even need that. So anyway, that's another thing I've sort of been looking at. There's 1,000 things going on in your head all the time with this, and you've got to be a week or a fortnight ahead of the whole thing without even doing any restoration work. To get it moved, you've got to book a truck, and then which surprised me actually when I inquired about a truck. They're billed by the hour from depot to depot. Thanks, Adam. In Queensland, you can have custom plates, so it's a toss up too. Trucks billed by the hour from depot to depot. So if there's a truck based at, say, Rockley, which is on a good day half hour away from here, and you've got to come down and pick this up and then deliver it to wherever, and then the truck's got to get back to Rockley before it signs off, and you pay for that transport as well. So if you don't pick a public holiday or a Sunday or something, which most towing companies pay a surcharge anyway, you kind of, yeah, there's a lot to learn about that. But custom plates really aren't a huge part of what I want to do. Flat, it's also available. Yeah, nah, I'm good. So I can get that bit of paperwork and a license plate and a sticker. I'd be pretty happy with, and the canopy on it and some curtains around it. I'd be pretty happy to ship it down to Dan's and let him play with it for a bit. Go down on the weekends. It also needs motion guards. It's missing motion guards. Whether it's ever going to get them, because it probably hasn't had any since 1927 or something. And most Australian engines had them removed and put in the shed, and I don't think they ever went back on, to be honest, because they're a bit fussy. And they get in the way a bit, probably. But they've got basically two wing nuts at the back, and they unclip. And they run between the cylinder block and the horn blocks to basically, I guess, so you can't put your arm sideways into the motion, but I don't know how that works. They're all fitted with them originally. It's just I don't think they ever went back out on the road with them afterwards, after the first service anyway. So wouldn't mind getting a set of them made, because it's a good place to put a nameplate as well. And roller really needs a name, and this one's never ever had one. It also needs the cladding back on. Now, cladding is, right, think of a giant soup can, I guess is the best way to describe that. Think of a giant soup can that's slit down one edge, and it's got a brass or slit down one side, and the ends are taken out of it, and it's got a couple of holes cut in it, and that fits over the bottom of the boiler in between the chains and everything, and like it's got to fit in around all that, and clips in place with a row of screws along the top, or a couple of screws along the top, or nothing at all, and just brass bands, one each end and one in the middle, with screws in them. All this is a fairly difficult thing to fit in one piece. There's no real easy way to do that. So a lot of engines tend to run with them off, and that's kind of okay too, but it's a bit of a pain because it doesn't look anywhere near as nice. So just tossing up ways to put all that back on, which is there with the engine but it's off at the moment, to put all the bits back on so that they are easy to get on and off. That's something else I'm thinking about. Anyway, James says, Rough Cut 2022 is coming up. Yes, it is. Very close. I've had a bit of a rethink on my project. I don't know, only because Chirpy said I'd like to do the same thing, and I'm more than happy to let Chirpy do it. I don't think if more than one person there's a different take on something, that's probably really nice too. I've got a couple of options actually, to be honest. There's still about 3 videos I could do, and probably 3 videos I will do. I just got to choose one. I've had a bit more of a think about it, and I'm not sure about that. But I'm not sure about the original idea. So if you're listening, Chirpy, go ahead and do what you want to do, not what someone else wants to do. Keep it simple. Don't invest months into a video like that for that. Do something in the afternoon and make a video about it and edit it up. Get it uploaded that night and scheduled. Then it's done. Don't know. Still thinking about that. I've got a feeling that the cladding will... Yeah, Dan, I just saw your comment. We've got a feeling that the cladding will go on in 2 halves, one each side, with a row of rib nuts in one piece and a row of screws in the other. And I think that's how you do it. And your idea of blocks of wood to hold it in place, or to pack it out with strapping nailed around it or screwed around it, it's probably a really good idea too, I think. I'm kind of liking that. So that's something that's going to happen once it ends up down at Dan's and the farm. It's not going to be a job that we're going to tackle until then. What else? Yeah, it's Wednesday. All day, most of us sort of kept out of the slums all day, but people find their own level, Dan. It's Wednesday. There are a lot of ideas, really. There are some cool ideas, and I mean, do up a hand plane or geez, I'm up at sort of 5:30, 6 o'clock anyway. But this week I've been dragging my feet a bit because I've been a bit sore, to be honest. So pretty cruisy about this week. We'll get through this week, and then this weekend we might have a bit of a go. See if we can get some stuff done. Don't think much the paintbrush job on the fence, to be honest. If we're going to go there, whoever's done that sort of might have been 40 years ago. That's the thing. I don't think they did much of a job of it. But it has got someone's made a box for it. I reckon it's a repro box. I don't think that it's an original box. I didn't even look at that. It's very similar to what would have been an original box. But these are different, obviously. They're different finish. These offer much earlier, I think. Hornby series. Station platform, they're a different pattern here. This may have been that pattern. But this one's a pressed one. It's got a pressed in line there, and this one's just printed. So I've got a feeling that they're not original bits for either of them, but I'm not paying hundreds of dollars for that either. Or in some cases, thousands of dollars these are bringing. It's not an original box. M. Wilson, whoever M. Wilson was, written his name on the top, so. EE have 3D printers now? Prusa, did I say Prusa? Sorry, James. Yeah, I'm only teasing you. We have 3D printers now. That's true. We do have 3D printers now. What else? I've got to do some machine work and get things done as well here. I really want to get this harmonograph finished, and things got in the way there. I will get a video for that completed. There's not much to get the next video finished. I've got to basically finish the other ring and put a couple of drive pins in and or a couple of roll pins in, push them in and upload that video, and then do some woodwork. It'd be really nice to have this saw going to do that. Anyway, I've been slack and jump around all over the place and don't actually make any progress, and I apologise for being that person. And it makes everyone else look better when they actually get things finished, I think. I'm happy to be a fall guy. I was going to oil this surface plate because it's been sitting out over here and it's probably not particularly good for it. Starting to show a little bit of, it's not bad. Poor old oil pump. Isn't used to pumping that big thick oil, so we might run a bit of gear oil on top of that so it doesn't go rusty. There we go. Make it slippery to get hold of if anyone wants to steal it anyway. Nothing else. What kind of oil is that? It's 5 weight 30. No, it's not. That's probably 140 weight gear oil, I would say. Which is what I use on the lathe, or on the spinny bits that lose oil anyway. It'll be one hydraulic oil, probably 144 weight hydraulic oil, I think. No, it's not. It's gear oil. Definitely gear oil. Pretty thick stuff. Hi, Carol. I'd ask questions too. I mean, the question mark is kind of that's where we're at, eh? We're a weird bunch in here. Welcome to the weird bunch. You'll just take it as second nature next time. You'll understand that it's just the way we are. But put some paint on this box too, and it's starting to look pretty tidy. I'm going to finish that at some point without too much trouble. It really just needs a bit of a sand back and a coat of paint on the outside and some hinges and the handle. We'll see how we go. Anyway, that's what's happening in my little world. Video from Rustanox as normal. Who else has had a video out? Who else has made a video? Did anyone see anyone from anything? There was one from Craig. Video from Craig this week. I think there might be another one coming too, from what I've heard, but I don't know. Was there one from Dan Shed? Did I see one from Dan Shed? No, I didn't see one from Dan Shed, so that's nothing normal. Gosh. Is there one from Chirpy? There was a couple about the... He's been doing a few plane videos lately, and they're all pretty good. His woodworking tool videos are pretty good usually. Chirp's probably gone to bed anyway. Hey Murray, sorry I missed you. Murray Pearson, g'day. Aaron had one up. James P did a tool haul, excellent. David Bellani, g'day. A tool haul video from James P. I'm going to go and check that out when we're done here. Absolutely. I haven't done much at all, as you've already seen. I've sort of limped around and sat around with my feet up. It's a bit slack. Not much time for that sort of thing. Anyway, probably going to call it because it's been a long day for everyone, and really appreciate you tuning in, even if it's at last minute. Sorry, David. Be kind to each other, and yeah, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Don't buy too many useless boat anchor machines. And we'll see you all again next week, I guess. But might be video up before then. We'll see how we go. Anyway, I'll say good night and really appreciate all you guys.